اهدنا الصراط المستقيم اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين صدق الله العظيم.
It's almost exactly 2 months since one of our community's luckiest days, the day that the underwear bomber failed to explode on Flight 253 in Detroit. A major wake-up call. The media has been reporting on terror-related cases, both real and imagined, for many years now, and so many of these stories were so overhyped and compromised by informers that it became easy to disbelieve, to deny, to turn aside from all of it. Police reports and congressional hearings failed to convince, especially given the poor quality of analysis. And yet, I recall when hundreds were being rounded up from the community right after 9/11, and the deep denial in the Muslim community at that time, denial of what was happening all around us. Now, with this week's guilty plea by former Flushing resident Najibullah Zazi, even with lingering questions and sealed court transcripts, it is becoming impossible to deny our shared responsibility to do something about this drift, distortion, and disaffection of a small, very small, but significant group of Muslims. Some of them may even have a fine dream to fight and right wrongs around the world, but a dream that is too easily manipulated to cheap ends, false ends, tragic ends. Greetings to this panel, the first in a series that Muslim Consultative Network is putting together this spring. Working in the New York City Muslim community, first at Islamic Circle of North America, and in recent years at Muslim Consultative Network, I have worked with colleagues to include Know Your Rights training along with other health and community education programs. We are greatly troubled how restrictions on civil liberties have impacted this community. While we denounce attacks on any civilians anywhere, we also support those who have been unfairly attacked by vicious and politicized witch hunts. We are greatly troubled when the sons and daughters of our community are demonized, but also when they go astray. Today's panel includes diverse leaders, scholars, and human rights activists who usually focus on the impact of those restrictions on family and community. However, today we consider the issue of radicalism and radicalization, what it is, who gets to define it, and what relation it may or may not have to terrorism.
We're really excited to have this event. Hopefully, like Adam said, it's going to open up new doors and new ideas to everyone, clarify misconceptions, and give you a broader understanding of what's going on in our society today. So without any delay, I would like to call our distinguished professor and moderator for tonight, Professor Mark Rosenblum. Professor Mark is currently leading the professor, the center has a huge name. It's the longest name, I can never say it, but Center for Religious, Ethnic, and Cultural Understanding. That's it, right? Close enough. All right, so without any delay, Professor Mark.
Just a brief outline. I'm just a little delayed in your introductory comments, so I hope I'm not repeating the format for this evening. We're going to be hearing very briefly introductory comments from each of our distinguished panelists. We've asked them to keep their opening comments to about 3 minutes so that we can have interactive, dynamic, and inclusive discussion informally, and then you'll have a chance to also participate in this. I thought I would just start in a way that struck me as appropriate, not as an Islamic scholar and not as a Muslim, but referring to an Islamic benedictory prayer that seems appropriate for the title of this panel and for the participants in the panel. It reads, "O Lord, grant that we perceive truth as true and the good fortune to follow it, and that we perceive falsehood as false and the good fortune to avoid it." And there couldn't be a better title to this evening's discussion to try and perceive and discover what the truths are, and to discover and to perceive what the falsehoods are, than by any racial, ethnic, or religious group turning to look inward and to share their ideas.
We're going to take 2 more questions. So, Mr. Peter over here, he has been raising his hand.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Peter. I'm a student here at Queens College. My question is for Imam Shamsi. After 9/11, people were asking a lot of questions like, where are the Muslims? Why are they not speaking out against this, terrorism and all these things? And 2 years later, I came to Islam, I became a Muslim, and I'm still hearing the same questions, except they were being directed at me. So I guess it's kind of 2 things. One, how do we as Muslims, we don't have the answers to the political struggles of the Middle East yet. We are the ones who people will come to. I've heard it from my family members, neighbors, fellow students. Why do they want to kill all the Americans and things like that? And I don't know anything about these people. So how do we deal with that on a personal level? And then how can we do something to affect the fact that while we're doing so many events like this, they're going on across the country to talk about Islam and its role and the issues of terrorism and jihad and these problems. Yet when you turn on the TV, it's just talking heads asking again, where are the Muslims? So how can we deal with that as well? Thank you.
First of all, congratulations, alhamdulillah, became Muslim 2 years after 9/11. Allah strengthen, inshallah. Even the student of the granddad of terror, Yusuf al-Qaradawi, he condemned clearly terrorism, and you can find that on the internet. So I don't understand why still people are questioning that. No, some scholars spoke out clearly against terrorism. Almost all scholars, including Saudi Arabia scholars, spoke out clearly against condemning terrorism. And I was asked by the Daily News the same questions in 2006. And he said, why you never spoke out clearly against radicalism or extremism, although this term is being politicized in many ways. So I say, okay, you don't have to ask me a question, just give me an opportunity to write an article. So I wrote an article, and of course they changed it more than 10 times, editing, and they published it. And the title of that article was, Rooting Out Radicalism from the Muslim Community. So I think we spoke out clearly, but number one, we don't have mainstream media to convey our voice. Number two, this question itself is a process of building a notion that Muslims are not opposing radicalism or extremism or terrorism. So it looks like there's a systemic way of showing the people around that Muslims are friends of terror. So I don't know why, but I think it's our responsibility, it's part of our responsibility to let them know, yes,